This device allows you to generate clean energy from nothing more than your own food waste. Yet in many American townships, it is technically illegal to operate. This is a home biodigester. It turns 5 pounds of food waste into 2 hours worth of cooking gas, prevents methane from entering the atmosphere, and can be built for less than $200 using materials from your local hardware store. What you're about to discover is a biological refinery that the energy industry doesn't want you to know about, how it works, and the legal systems at work that stop us from using it. For thousands of years, people across Europe and Asia reported seeing eerie, flickering lights hovering over marshes and graveyards at night. They called them the-Wisps, or corpse candles, and in folklore, they were thought to be spirits leading travelers astray. But what they were actually seeing was the first evidence of a biological power plant. Those lights were pockets of methane gas, created by rotting vegetation deep underwater, spontaneously igniting when they hit the oxygen at the surface. The real scientific audit of this ghost light began in 1808. It was then that the chemist, Sir Humphrey Davy, performed a series of controlled experiments determining that the gas produced by fermenting organic matter was, in fact, methane. By 1859, a community in Bombay, India, took this lab-scale discovery and turned it into infrastructure. They built the first documented large-scale anaerobic digester, using the facility's waste to provide all the lighting and cooking fuel for the entire community. This wasn't a hobby project. It was a functioning utility that didn't require drilling, fracking, or thousands of miles of steel pipe. As the Industrial Revolution accelerated, European engineers began to see sewage not as a waste product, but as a resource. By 1895, the city of Exeter in the United Kingdom was powering its streetlights using gas recovered from its own sewer system. During World War II, when fossil fuels were diverted to the front lines, thousands of European farmers survived by converting their tractors and home stoves to run on biogas harvested from manure pits. The reason a biodigester outperforms every other green waste solution is not about mechanical power. It is about the physics of anaerobic digestion. To understand how a tank of kitchen scraps becomes a blue flame on your stove, you have to look at the biology. A biodigester is an artificial stomach, a sealed, oxygen-free vessel where a specific community of bacteria, known as methanogens, breaks down organic matter. Think of it as a living machine that eats what you can't. And the digestion happens in 4 distinct biochemical stages. First is hydrolysis, where complex molecules like proteins and fats are broken down into simple sugars. Then comes acidogenesis and acetogenesis, where another group of bacteria turns those sugars into organic acids, essentially turning the waste into a biological soup. Finally, the methanogens take over. They consume those acids and, in the process, exhale a gas mixture that is typically 60 to 70% methane. Because methane is lighter than air, it rises to the top of the tank. The pressure created by the gas itself, typically measured at around 0.15 to 0.3 psi, is enough to push the fuel through a half-inch pipe directly to your kitchen stove. It requires no compressor, no fuel pump, and no external power. It is a self-pressurizing fuel source. But the real payoff is the effluent. In a standard composting system, up to 50% of the nitrogen is lost to the atmosphere as the pile breathes. However, a study published in the journal Waste Management in 2012 showed that anaerobic digestion happens in a closed loop, preserving almost 100% of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. For every pound of scraps you put in, you get 0.9 pounds of bioslurry out, a high-grade liquid fertilizer. The biodigester isn't just a home gas plant, but also a nutrient recovery engine that turns your kitchen waste into the highest quality garden food on the planet. In 2024, researchers studying domestic biogas systems in temperate climates found that a standard 212 cubic foot digester, roughly the size of 2 large refrigerators, could produce enough gas to cook 3 full meals a day for a family of 4 using nothing but their own organic waste. The data shows a remarkable 1-to-1 efficiency. According to research from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, for every 2.2 pounds of food waste added to a well-maintained system, you can expect to harvest approximately 14 cubic feet of biogas. And in a modern American household, which produces an average of 200 pounds of food waste per person every year, A single family is throwing away enough energy to replace up to 30% of their cooking fuel needs. On carbon and sustainability, the comparison is not remotely close. A study by the Environmental Protection Agency confirmed that methane is 25 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. When food waste rots in a landfill, it produces methane that escapes into the atmosphere. By capturing that methane in a biodigester and burning it, you're creating a win-win scenario. You are preventing a potent atmospheric pollutant from escaping while displacing the fossil methane that would otherwise be fracked and piped to your home. And then there is the pathogen audit. Research conducted by the International Renewable Energy Agency has shown that the anaerobic environment and the intense biological competition inside the tank significantly reduce the presence of E. coli and other harmful bacteria. Given how easy a biodigester is to implement and the level of self-sufficiency it offers, it makes you wonder, why has it not become more widely adopted? The short answer is the National Board of Fire Underwriters and the local zoning office. The modern framework that locks biodigesters out of the American suburb is a combination of fire codes and nuisance laws. Because the natural gas industry wants you to believe that methane is a high-pressure, explosive danger, they have written building codes that treat a low-pressure biodigester like a commercial chemical plant. In reality, the pressure inside a home digester is less than 0.5 psi. For comparison, a standard propane tank on your backyard grill sits at around 100 to 200 psi. A home digester is thousands of times less likely to cause a structural explosion than the industry-standard propane grill sitting on your deck right now. Then there is the economic incentive gap. If every home in a county produced 50% of its own cooking gas, the multi-billion-dollar gas utilities would see a massive collapse in revenue. There is zero commercial incentive for a utility provider to lobby for a technology that turns a homeowner into a competitor. In many U.S. states, the model biogas zoning ordinances were written specifically for industrial farms with 10,000 head of cattle. They require expensive environmental impact studies and professional engineering seals that can cost $10,000 before you even buy a tank. These regulations were not designed to protect the public. They were designed to ensure that the barrier to entry remains too high for the average person to cross. But if you want to build your own biological refinery, here's what you need to know. For most viewers, the entry point is an engineered home system like those produced by Home Biogas. These are ready-to-assemble kits that include a flexible digestion bag and a specialized stove. A standard unit costs between $700 and $900. If you live in a warm climate, this is a set-it-and-forget-it system that typically pays for itself in gas and fertilizer savings in less than 3 years. For the homesteader on a budget, the IBC tote design is the global gold standard for DIY biogas. Using a standard 275-gallon plastic water tank, you can build a fully functional digester for less than $200. The key to this build is the hydraulic seal. You must ensure that the waste intake and the effluent outlet are submerged in the liquid to prevent oxygen from entering the tank. This is the one rule you cannot break. If oxygen gets in, the methanogens die and the system fails. The open source guides provided by the Solar Cities project are the best technical resource for this, providing the exact plumbing dimensions required. Now, if you live in the north, the biggest hurdle is temperature. When the tank drops below 68 degrees Fahrenheit, the bacteria go dormant. The play here, pioneered by researchers at Thomas Jefferson University, is to integrate your biodigester with a greenhouse or a solar thermal heating loop. By maintaining the mesophilic temperatures required, you can produce gas even in a Canadian winter. The maintenance is the final piece of the puzzle. Because there are no moving parts, the maintenance is strictly biological. You have to feed the beast regularly, and you have to manage the pH balance. If you feed it too much acidic waste, like a massive bag of lemons, the stomach gets sour and the gas production stops. To solve this issue is fairly simple. Add a dose of wood, ash, or baking soda. Both act like an antacid, resetting the chemistry. The home biodigester is a 150-year-old answer to a 21st century problem. It is a structure built on a single geometric observation, that in nature, there is no such thing as waste. There is only misplaced energy. If you allow that biology to do its work, it will turn your kitchen scraps into a silent, self-regulating stream of fuel, without the need for the grid, the utility company, or the succession of failure that defines the modern landfill cycle. A lot of what this channel covers was nearly lost, not because it stopped working, but because the industry decided that simplicity and independence weren't profitable enough. If rediscovering the lost art of self-sufficiency matters to you, then subscribing and sharing is the simplest way to make sure this kind of knowledge keeps being found. In this video, we covered the biodigester, which turns waste into gas. But if you want to see what happens when you take that same closed-loop logic and apply it to a system that heats your home using nothing but the air and a few recycled cans, then you need to watch our video on the soda can heater next.